With Pokemon Legends ZA having a modern setting, it seems that ancestors are very unlikely to return. This was a fun thing about Legends Arceus, but doesn't look like it'll be the case here. However, because of its modern day setting, instead we have the opportunity to see many characters return, not ancestors, but the actual characters themselves, and perhaps even be aged up a little bit. Welcome back to the post where we talk about all things Pokemon, and today we're going to be talking about the characters that I think we could see return in Pokemon Legends ZA. We're going to be starting with kind of the confirmed ones and most likely ones, and gradually working our way towards some that I think are still very much in the realm of possibility, but definitely less likely than the ones at the beginning of the list. So let's just go ahead and get right into it with the one character that we do have confirmed to return in this game, and that is AZ, and, you know, also his Eternal Flower Floette. We know that AZ is coming back. We saw this in the trailer for Pokemon Legends ZA that we received on Pokemon Day this year, and yeah, this is pretty interesting right off the bat. I mean, AZ is a 3,000 plus year old character. He is also the creator of the ultimate weapon, and thus a war criminal, and also he was once the king of Kalos. So AZ is kind of like the guy that should appear in a Pokemon Kalos game, right? He's now running a hotel alongside his Floette, so his, you know, genocidal days are certainly over, and, you know, it just seems that Buddy's just trying to live life. Yeah, I'm really excited to see what's going on here, because, well, we have been told he's running this hotel. I do think he's going to play an integral part into the story. Yeah, I'm excited for this. Moving into territory of most likely characters that I think will appear in this game. First off, we have Emma and Mimi. Mimi is an Esper, for those who didn't know, who is owned by Emma. But yeah, at the end of Pokemon X and Y, in the post-game, you do this whole plot with Looker and this girl named Emma and her Esper, Mimi, and at the end of it, Looker ends up handing his bureau, the Looker Bureau, which he kind of establishes in Lumiose City, to Emma as like, hey, you continue onwards. Now, while we haven't seen Emma yet, we do see the Looker Bureau appear in the trailer for these games, and then not only that, but you can even see, if you look really closely on the desk of the Looker Bureau, you can see a picture of an Esper, very likely Mimi. So I would say it is all but confirmed that Emma and Mimi will be appearing in this game. Professor Sycamore is also incredibly likely to appear in this game, I'd say. Not only are there theories that the character that you play as could be the child of Professor Sycamore, but also, you know, this is Lumiose City, which is where Professor Sycamore's lab is. I feel like he at least has to be mentioned, but honestly, I will be surprised if we play Legends ZA and Sycamore does not appear at any point in it. I feel like it has to happen, and I feel like it will happen. You can see his lab on the map. I mean, it just makes sense, right? And on the note of Professor Sycamore's lab, two other characters that could appear are Dexio and Cena. Dexio and Cena in Pokemon X and Y worked for Professor Sycamore at his lab, so they definitely could appear here. But then also, we see Dexio and Cena again in Pokemon Sun and Moon. And in Pokemon Sun and Moon, they give you the Zygarde Cube, which is kind of how you go around and collect the different Zygarde cells and are able to construct and deconstruct and, you know, refigure your Zygarde in the Alola region. So this tells me that Dexio and Cena are researching Zygarde. So not only does that make me think that in a Zygarde focused game like Legends ZA is, these two could appear, but in fact I also think they could play a very important role in the story. Again, I mean, this is all just based on the fact that, for one, the lab is still here, same argument as Sycamore, but I'd say possibly these guys are even more likely because they seem to be researching Zygarde, so why wouldn't they be here? Now we're going to move into some characters that frequent Lumiose City a lot, or even perhaps live there. So this is kind of iffy because we see that there is a time jump between Pokemon X and Y and Pokemon Legends ZA. I'm assuming that it's about 10 to 12 years. You can see this video on how I came to that conclusion, but we don't know for certain who will still be here. But there's some characters that are definitely options. Of these, we have the Lumiose Ghost Girl. This is a ghost that haunts one of the buildings in the northern part of the city. And yeah, she's really freaky. She floats and she says, no, you're not the one in Pokemon X and Y. Clearly looking for the one, but you ain't it. maybe we will be it in Pokemon Legends ZA. I don't know. I feel like she's got to be here. There's even like kind of a Hex Maniac character, which is the model she uses on the map in Lumiose City. And if I wanted to read really, really hard into this, I could say that she is the Lumiose Ghost Girl, but I doubt it. But yeah, I am hoping she appears. I don't think she would be like main story, but something Legends Arceus was kind of known and beloved for was its side quests, and I imagine that this will return in Legends EA, and I could certainly see her being tied to some kind of side quest, and perhaps being involved with a ghost-type Pokemon, maybe even a ghost-type Pokemon that's going to receive a Mega Evolution in these games, like, you know, I don't know, it could be a Pokemon that already has one, like Gengar, but maybe it'll be a new one. Like, I personally think it'll be really cool to see Dusknoir get a Mega Evolution, and that would kind of work well, because that's a Pokemon that brings people to the afterlife, and this is a girl who clearly never went, so maybe that could be involved there. Another resident of Lumiose City is Clement. Now, this one is really, really iffy, because not only does Clement live in Lumiose City, but he is also the gym leader of the Lumiose City Gym, which is located in Prism Tower. Or at least it was. If you look in the trailer, there is no gym logo on Prism Tower, so it looks like the Prism Tower is no longer a gym, which means that Clement is no longer a gym leader here. Now, what I think happened is that Clement has left the Pokemon gym leading scene and has gone full-time with inventing. We know that the Rotom Dex was invented by Clement, and the Rotom Phone is very clearly a successor to the Rotom Dex. So, in my opinion, it could be very, very possible that Clement is now working for the Rotom Phone Company. So, sure, there's a chance that he is not in this game because he's off at the Rotom Phone Company working for it. But the Rotom Phone Company might be based here in Lumiose City. We do see in one of the shots of the trailer a kind of satellite that seems to have a Rotom-like head on it. So this could imply, because we've never seen the satellite in any other game, that this is like the central hub of the Rotom Phone Company, which would make sense because it's where like basically its inventor lives. So yeah, I think we could still see Clement appear as his new inventor, possibly even CEO self. And he's right here at the Rotom Phone Company. And then on that note, we have Bonnie. Bonnie is, of course, Clement's little sister. She'll be much older now. I imagine that since she's not taking over the Lumiose City Gym, since the Lumiose City Gym ain't a thing anymore, I imagine that she is now on her own journey. Maybe we could see her appear because she does originate from Lumiose City, but at the very least, I imagine that we would get some kind of reference by Clement from her if he does appear, you know, like mention like, oh yeah, me and my sister used to love playing with Rotom, and one day I discovered this, you know? So, like, there's at least a nod to her, but I do think it's possible she could appear. In fact, like, I would love if they made her a champion. Like, unironically, I think that would be so freaking cool. On the note of champion, there is Diantha. Diantha also frequently works at the Trainer PR studio and loves the cafes of Lumiose City. So while she doesn't seem to necessarily be a resident of here, she does frequent Lumiose a lot, and Diantha is the at least former champion of the Kalos region. So I feel like it would be well within reason to assume that she could pop up in these games. Another character who actually does live in Lumiose City is Trevor. His home is like in Lumiose City. It's like a little flat in Lumiose, so he could very well appear here. I really hope he does. I actually am of the rare opinion that I loved the cast of Pokemon X and Y. So I hope they do reappear, and Trevor does seem to be the most likely given his ties to the city. Then there is also Cybold. Cybold, again, we don't know that he lives in Lumiose City, but he's the Elite Four member of Kalos, the water type one specifically, and he does work at a restaurant in Lumiose City. He has a restaurant in Lumiose, so he very well could appear here, perhaps even in his restaurant. It'll be so interesting with characters like this to see if they're still active in what they were doing with X and Y, or if they've kind of leaned more into their side jobs now. Like if Cybold maybe he has retired as an Elite Four member so that he can go full-time chef. I don't know, but yeah, he does work at a restaurant in Lumiose City, so he very well could be here. Also, another person who works in Lumiose City is Alexa. Alexa has her own, like, journalism business in Lumiose, so she very well could be here. I'm kind of expecting her to, because I feel like that's an easy way to get like side quests and stuff, and could be a big part in like covering the development of Lumiose City. I feel like she'll absolutely be here. And then with her, you could potentially see her sister Viola pop up, just because they're sisters, so maybe she pops in to visit. But Viola is over in Santa Luna City, so it's also very possible that Viola doesn't show up at all. And then there's also Malva. Malva frequently stays at the Hotel Richest Me in Lumiose City, so this implies to me she doesn't live in Lumiose, but she does like to visit there from time to time, so maybe she'll pop up again. She has ties to Team Flare, and I feel like a lot of this game will kind of reference those events, so I feel like she's a great character to kind of explain the history of kind of what happened in Kalos 10 to 12 years ago. And then we move into the less likely characters, but still very possible in my opinion. First up is Lysander. On that note, you know, the plot revolved around Lysander. He was the villain of Pokemon X and Y, so I think he could come back here. And you might say, okay, but he's dead. But okay, is he? I mean, you know, the most famous rule with character deaths is no body, no death, and we never found the body of Lysander. He is assumed to be trapped under the rubble of the ultimate weapon, but assumed to be is the key word there. And also, if you're playing Pokemon X, he gives himself eternal life. So sure, he's buried underground, but he is immortal. So one day, he or perhaps a Team Flare admin could pull him from the rubble, and he's going to be okay because he has immortality now. Also, Looker could appear. Looker, again, has the ties with Emma running the Looker Bureau. At the very least, I imagine he'd get mentioned. It's been a while. Looker used to be such a staple in Pokemon games. He was like in all of them, and then he stopped being in them after Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, so I would love to see Looker reappear again in these games, but we'll see if it happens. And with him, we could see Annabelle. We know that they are now partners, and honestly, given the vibes that I was getting over in the Alola region, I feel like maybe at this point, if this is a few years after that, they could be more than just work partners and might move into the territory of romantic partners. So yeah, I think if Looker appears, Annabelle could appear too. It's also possible Annabelle could just appear on like behalf of Looker. I don't know. I do think that these characters are very possible though. And then moving into our least likely, but we can make a connection, Nemona. Nemona, it's possible, also could appear in these games, or at least get mentioned in these games. So we know that Nemona has very, very rich parents, and it seems that they work for the Rotom Phone Company. So going back to what I said earlier about the Rotom Phone Company potentially being headquartered in Lumiose City, it's possible that Nemona's parents could work in Lumiose City, which is quite the commute, but it does seem like she's kind of home by herself a lot. I kind of get those vibes. So yeah, if her parents are working here, we probably would meet her parents, and then it's possible too that we could meet Nemona, who's here visiting her parents, you know. Also too, Mega Evolution is such a battle-centric gimmick, and there seems to be these promotion matches. This seems to be a very battle-focused game, and who loves battles more than Nemona, am I right? But we'll see if this happens. I don't know. I could see this one going either way. I think she will get referenced, though, and I think we will meet her parents, because I think that kind of detail of her parents working for the phone company, I think was kind of a little foreshadowing that we would meet them in the next game, because I do believe the Rotom Phone Company is going to be headquartered here in Lumiose City. But yeah, guys, that's my list. Any character could appear in these games. You know, there's so many. Any Kalos character they could drop in there. Also, Lumiose City is Paris, France, so really any character ever could be here, and it makes sense because it's just like, oh, they're visiting one of the most popular cities in the world, and that's totally believable. But I think these are the ones that we should really keep our eyes out for, because I think they're the most likely. Let me know who you'd like to see in the comments below. Like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and until next time, I will see all of you later.